Hello and welcome to the Mainly Eminem podcast in association with ePro. We're back after a short summer break. It's been 2 weeks since the death of some Shady dropped. This is our first instalment of a trilogy of episodes in celebration of the album as we go through the album in its entirety. Joining me for today's show we have Blake and Ross. Good evening guys, how are we?
Buzzing, pal. Good to be back.
Exactly that.
I'm glad we're back. It's been too long. It's been 2 months since our last official episode. Obviously, we done a mini pre-show episode on Twitter just before the album dropped, which was quite good. So, back into the swing of things. So, the album review. I'm just going to get right into it. Track number 1, Renaissance. Now, that is produced by Eminem and Louis Resto. I think I've said quite a few times, guys, over the years, like, those two as a duo with the production, it's so good. Like, there's so many classic songs from, the Eminem Show, Encore, 8 Mile soundtrack that these two have always been involved in. So it was really good to see this straight away, especially in the first track of the album. So it starts with Eminem spitting on a grave. I think the sort of the production side of it is giving me Rabbit Run vibes from the 8 Mile soundtrack back in 2002. And of course, as we know, the voice is more of a sort of Slim Shady voice. It looks like it's either been put through a sort of AI system or he's sort of done it on his own accord. But in terms of the intro, guys, is this one of the best intros to an Eminem album?
It's definitely up there, I think. I don't know if it quite tops the Premonition intro for me, because that was nuts from the get-go. But this was, especially with the fact that you hear, like you said, that AI adapted voice, completely took me by surprise straight away, instantly.
Yeah.
The beat, like you said, very sort of reminiscent of the 8 Mile soundtrack. Obviously, I think that was intentional to bring back that vibe. But yeah, it's definitely probably one of his strongest starts to an album for quite some time. If it doesn't beat Premonition, I mean that's open to opinion. But yeah, I haven't sat with it long enough yet to decide if I quite prefer it. But
still fresh in the memory. It's still a lot of these tracks will take weeks, months, and years before they you put them in a ranking and try and compare them to a lot of his previous stuff. But it's a great way to start the album anyway. Blake, what did you make of the song?
Do you know what? It is a fantastic opening. Obviously, going back to, is it one of the best? I mean, for me, one of the best opening tracks will always be Cold Wind Blows.
Yes, that is a classic.
Because you listen to this track and you already get the pace of on how the album's going to go. You get you understand how the old school voice through the mix is going to play into effect. And to be fair, obviously the bit that stands out to me and probably most everyone is the bit where he's like, how a lot of people these days are self-imposed critics and they pull apart genius of word for work. Obviously Kendrick's album, Joyner's album, everyone's albums that come out, it's always not good enough or this, that, and the other. And obviously references Wu-Tang Clan's 36 Chambers.
One of the best.
It's easily top 50 hip-hop albums all time. Easy, without a shadow of a doubt. So, like I say, that was a nice little nod there. But no, he's right in what he's saying though. Like the fact that people can pull all this music apart because they're self-imposed critics and they think they know better than everyone else. So it was a nice little fuck you to everyone, I think.
Yeah. So do you think that that line about all the complainers about Kendrick's album, Ye's album, do you think he's aiming that more towards fans or more towards sort of music critics?
I think it's probably Twitter heads, like Twitter people. Yeah. Because he says you nerdy pricks would find something wrong with 36 Chambers. He's not saying you nerdy critics, which would rhyme.
That would actually.
So it's like, I feel like if it was going to be like I don't think he really cares about critics that much anymore anyway.
No.
I definitely think that's targeted towards the fans because Twitter is now probably the most toxic platform.
Oh, it's horrible. Ever. It's only getting worse. Getting worse.
Ridiculous. But I think it's targeted towards, like Blake said, people that have got a few thousand views on YouTube. They use potential artists like Kendrick, Joyner, J. Cole, even Drake as a way to get clout and views on their channel, Fantano.
Oh, yeah, he has. The less we speak about him, the better.
Exactly.
But the track's really good. My only slight critique is it's too short. I think it's like
Yeah.
just under 2 minutes. So it would have been good, you know, if it was maybe 3 or 4. But like, listen, it's still an unbelievable opening to the album. There was a few, you know, this is going to be one of these albums that you are going to have to listen to a good amount of times over a course of time to pick up, you know, your double entendres, your triple entendres. There's just so many layers to the sort of the writing, which is why I love him as an artist as well, because he just, you know, there's so many Easter eggs that are laced about his music, and you know, some of them you don't actually get, you know, the first few times. There was one that was really good. It was towards the end of, well, probably midway through the song. So he goes on to say, Shady's dangling a baby tangled in a blanket, strangled and hanging him off of the railings by his ankles on some gangster shit. So, don't know if you have sort of clocked this as well. What
Michael
he's
Jackson one, isn't it?
Exactly. So he's discussing Michael Jackson, who infamously dangled his kid over the railings of a Berlin hotel in 2002. And then, of course, a few months later, Eminem was in Glasgow, Scotland, and he was staying at a hotel, and he obviously replicated it. So he's also, as well as saying that, so he's done it, obviously, but the reason that he done it was because Michael Jackson did it as well. And then the sort of double entendre on it, which is quite clever, is where he's saying you know, a baby tangled in a blanket. So obviously there was a blanket over the kid when Michael Jackson did it, but the funny thing is that the kid, his name is Blanket. So it's just like, there's just two sort of layers to that as well.
I actually didn't clock that at all. I've only just realised that as you've said it. I wouldn't have picked up on that.
So that is very clever from that. There's plenty. I'm sure you have maybe got a few as well. But there was one where he was talking about Arrested Development, which of course are a hip hop group, but it was obviously a big TV show back in the day as well. So there's just so many meanings to a lot of the lines and the sort of the layers of the lyrics. Have you guys got any ones that you've seen on this track?
Just the one about but I can show you the ropes till you get the hang of it. Obviously, showing someone the ropes is you show them how to do something, and then when they get the hang of it, means that they're obviously, you know, they've picked it up. But also at the same time, it's the literal meaning of hanging and rope as a way of suicide or like execution. And then he also mentions Kane in the previous line, the name of a WWE wrestler and Hall of Famer.
That's right.
It's typically done in a ring with ropes around it as well. So I don't know if that ties in or if that's just a bit of a reach, but that's one.
No, I think it does
on Twitter. So
yeah, I think you're right with that one. But yeah, so that is the first track, guys. In terms of the charts, it done actually quite well. It did get streamed a lot of times. Number 13, it debuted in the UK charts. And on Billboard, it debuted at number 20. So the next track after that is Habits, which is featuring White Gold. It was produced by White Gold himself, along with Eminem and Nasra. In terms of this, guys, it's quite. I like the start of it in Pakistan getting chased by a pack of stands. That was quite clever. And in terms of the chorus from White Gold as well, very good, very catchy. What did you make of this one?
This is top 3 for me easily. I don't know about you, Blake, but I think we spoke briefly the other day about this track, and I said that I know this is obviously the second song on the album, and I didn't think White Gold would be able to top what he had done with Zeus, but this is easy top 3 on the album for me without a doubt.
It deserves a music video as well, I think.
Do you know what? It's one of those songs, like, especially with the chorus. Obviously, like Ross just said, obviously White Gold's obviously smashed the chorus out, but it's one of those, like, when you're in the car, you can't help but do that, like, you know, the whole fucking, like, honestly, it's such a good bop, and it's like, it's just packed with so much, like, I still go through it now, and obviously it's been in rotation for me daily, you know, ever since the album came out, and I still catch different things every single time.
So yeah, another line that caught my attention recently was when he says, "Been calling bitches hoes since a kindergartner. This is Jimmy Carter. Now I'm kitty cornered." So the thing with that is, you know, kindergarten, you're in that when you're obviously young, but when Eminem was in kindergarten, Jimmy Carter would have been the US president. So that ties in just with even the meaning behind that, which is quite good. But of course, it even rhymes as well. There was another one where he says, "Boys, Bruce Generous." So of course, his middle name is Bruce. But then of course, Bruce Jenner is. So and then just the way that sort of unfolds as well. So did you guys pick up on any other sort of clever lines?
That one's That's been bothering me for ages. I wondered what he meant by the whole Bruce Generous thing.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot his middle name is Bruce. So that's clarified that. No, I think for the whole track, I guess for me, what I really like is the back and forth between Eminem and Slim Shady on this. Like this is obviously them working in unison at this point. But they can obviously maybe see. Obviously, it starts with the. It's sort of alluded to that Eminem's been kidnapped and he's force feeding him drugs again to get him to bring out that side of him. And obviously, the hook by White Gold indicates that he's addicted to Slim Shady. But I think the way that he's done the back and forth is. I kind of explained this to. I had a chat with my older brother about this. He says it's almost hard to believe that they're different people when you're hearing it. If you were to show this to someone that had no idea who Eminem was at all, you could kind of they could probably see that this is two separate people on a track together.
Yeah.
And I just think, it worked really well.
Just the two of them going at it like together.
Yeah.
You know, at the start of it, they are like sort of together, and then as you know, when the album sort of goes, they sort of go their separate ways in that direction as well. I thought I love an Eminem bridge, I must admit, so I really enjoyed that one as well.
So 3 things I love on this song is so the very opening of the track. Obviously, I know we're going to discuss it in a couple of parts time, but it's the exact same word for word as the Guess Who's Back skit. Word for word, it's the exact same opening.
Ah, right.
You know, he says, I've been waiting for this for such a long time no see. Before you got rid of my ass, you know, shit like that. It's the exact same word for word. So I think, obviously, I know there's things if you listen to the album, you know, through 1 to 19, or if you listen to the album from 19 up to number 1, obviously, I know there's things about that, but I thought that was very cool. Obviously, like Ross was saying earlier with the chorus, basically saying that Slim Shady is an addiction, you know, came through pills, came through drink. It's basically saying, like, you can't get rid of me. It's impossible. And then the other bit I like is, one, because I'm a massive fan of the show and there's that many references to South Park previous, the Mr. Reality, where he's like, you know, all you people are sad, the people are mean. So, obviously, it's just one of those, like, the way he's constructed it all, and especially what he says in the track, and to add that in there, I thought it was quite smart. So they're the things that stand out most for me.
Yeah, so that was Mr. Reality from South Park. That sort of cameo was in that track. Now, there's also, when you think about it, Slim Shady was created around about 1997, and he is sort of from that South Park era. Like, I think when he was creating this, you know, the sort of comedy, evil side of things, that it does represent, you know, he's like a South Park character. Just the way he's been going about it, and then even the fact that they have Stan in South Park, which of course was, you know, one of Eminem's biggest tracks. So you sort of wonder, is that how we got the name? Was it from South Park? You'd probably say it potentially could have been.
I definitely think he's probably taken a bit of inspiration from him. I mean, in the sense he also had his own animated TV series as well, didn't he?
That's right.
Slim Shady Show. So, you know, it's kind of similar. All the characters were sort of exaggerated, but yeah, I definitely think he's probably got a lot of respect for the creators of South Park as well, because they've been doing pretty much the same thing he's been doing, just telling people some hard. South Park isn't just shock horror, is it?
No.
Like shock, like it always has an underlying message to it.
I saw a thing the other day. Sorry to interrupt you, Ross.
No, you go for it, yeah.
But basically, what it was saying was the fact that South Park is the most accurate portrayal of someone from outside of America wondering what America's like.
Yeah.
The fact that South Park is the closest and most accurate portrayal of America you can get is really telling.
Yeah, it's alarming, isn't it, really? And I think that's probably what... I mean, it's that whole thing of holding a mirror up to somebody and them not liking what they see, and then kind of hiding behind the mirror and going, well, I'm not actually really doing anything, I'm just telling you how it's portrayed. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he goes into that a bit more when he sort of targets specific people, like, I guess... in a couple of tracks, we'll get to it later on another one, but he is doing that again. It's holding the mirror up to people. They don't like what they're hearing, but all he's doing is telling them a pretty hard truth.
Yeah, exactly. So that was what Eminem goes on and said, would this rhyme be okay if South Park had did it? Would it make you less angry if Cartman spit it? So, like, that is true, because we all know this whole cancel culture era that we're in. You know, even like comedians, you know, M goes on later on about Dave Chappelle and other comedians that are sort of getting try to get cancelled because of their content,
Yeah.
even though they've been doing that sort of stuff for years. So it's just this era we're in, it's not good, to be fair. It's just a lot of people, the whole freedom of speech thing isn't maybe what it used to be. I don't know if that's true, but it just seems that everything's getting, microscoped up now. And people have to remember that, Eminem doing his music, it is its own sort of artistic way as well. So there is a lot of comedy segments in it. There's a lot of humour in it, and that's just the way that it's always been. So for a lot of people, try to say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And he's like, well, I will, and I can if I want to, sort of thing. So no, that was a good second track. Habits featuring White Gold. The next track from that, guys, is Trouble. Although I'm sure the day it got released, it did say skit next to it, but then within maybe a few hours later, it sort of just the skit part removed to it. But it's a bit of a strange one because it's like half a skit, but there's also some verses in the second half of it, despite it only being, a minute long or something.
I think it's less than that. I think it's like 40 seconds, to be fair.
So
I think it's really low.
So produced by Fred Rick and Dem Joints. It's basically sort of Eminem versus Slim Shady. Shady's trying to cancel Eminem, and they're having this wee sort of battle. Shady is more like, oh, you're going to Gen Z me, bro. You're trying to cancel me, sort of thing. So it's all about equal hate in this track, I think.
I also think as well as this beat, if I'm not wrong, is the same beat as Guilty Conscience 2.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it might be missing a couple of sort of sounds that are in that, but I'm pretty sure it's the same beat off the top of my head. I might have to double check that, but I think what I really liked about it was you can hear the Eminem side panicking while Slim Shady is obviously saying the fuck blind people, deaf people suck. You can hear him going, Jesus, what the slow down, you can't say that shit anymore. And again, I think it's that whole like Slim Shady's being like, what's the matter? You had no problem with this when it was making you money.
Exactly.
You had no problem with this when we were touring worldwide and all that shit. And then obviously with the whole, the big bad whapper just get his feelings hurt, reminded me of Taking My Ball.
Yes.
Of Relapse, where he does the baby voice at the end.
That's right.
And I was like, I don't know if he's done that on purpose, but that was a very good callback.
Do you know what I thought that said originally when I first heard it? I thought it said the big bad rabbit.
Yeah, I could understand it because it does sound like he's saying wabbit.
Yeah, and then because I was like, oh, that's a nod to obviously 8 Mile, and obviously everyone in the film calls him Rabbit. But no, obviously, like I say, it does say rapper, but it would have been funny if it did say Rabbit.
So at the start of this track, he basically says, here, drink this. So are we under an illusion it's either booze or if it's poison? But it's one or the two anyway.
Obviously, I think this goes back. We'll probably touch on it at another point when we get towards the end of the album in another episode. But obviously, initially he put out a thing saying, listen to this album in order. If you listen to it in the order 1 to 19, I got the impression that Slim Shady is trying to force him drugs and alcohol to get him to cross that line that he used to cross. But it could be poison, but then that would mean that Slim Shady is poisoning Marshall. So obviously it depends on what your stance is on the whole reverse listen thing. But
yeah,
I got from my impression on the first listen on the day it came out, I was under the impression that Slim Shady's trying to drug him and get him drunk again, because he then goes on later into the album to say, I think it's on Guilty Conscience too, you fed me a bottle of pills and a bottle of alcohol a day.
Yeah.
So it's like the idea was he might have had an issue with drink as well as the pills and the drugs at the same time. So Slim Shady's kind of doing anything he can to get that kind of side of Eminem out.
So that was just a sort of, as we said, it was a sort of half a skit, but also half a track.
The best thing to cut, sorry to obviously cut in again, but the best things to come out of these is definitely the TikToks. I have seen some absolute porkers come from these.
Unbelievable, yeah. I mean, some of it is very cringe, but I don't know if that's the point that people are trying to make with them. But
yeah, I think
some of the shit that guy, I forgot what his name is, Ricky something.
Are you on about Ricky Bursov or whatever his
Funny
name is?
fucker, yeah. He made a TikTok about it, being like, I can't wait to listen to this album, and he put the CD in. Obviously, it was like a fake CD because it wasn't out at the time. But he did like a live reaction to it where it was like trashing the radio set, being like, I'm so triggered, I'm going to cancel you, blah, 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 playing on to the whole theme, which I thought was really good.
Well, there's two to me which stand out. So there's a guy where it's like Eminem listening to Slim Shady record it in the booth. And
Yeah.
like it doesn't show you Slim Shady, so obviously it's basically like him just watching it, and then like every time obviously Eminem's in the background going, "Whoa, what the fuck!" Like it's just his reactions are brilliant. Like he's basically mimicking that.
Yeah, there's some of them are golden, mate. I think there's one that you sent. I think it was you that sent it over.
Yeah, some guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
As it says, you paraplegic fucks. It basically cuts there, and then it cuts that. It cuts to him doing that 50 Cent thing. You're like,
Why
I
say
like what he
fuck
said.
me
Fuck me
for?
for.
Yeah. I
That's
also
it.
saw another one as well. That was a guy put a video on YouTube being like, "I'm gonna listen to a song off of Eminem's new album, and I'll end the video when Eminem's offensive." And it's literally like 8 seconds long because he starts with trouble.
Aye.
So it's like I just thought that was really funny.
That's class. So yeah, so that was trouble from that side of things. Then of course, track after that, brand new Dance. So this is produced by Eminem and Louis Resto. This was originally supposed to be on Encore back in 2004, 2005. Of course, Christopher Reeves died around that era. So
Did it on purpose.
yeah,
Yeah.
how dare he? How dare he? So they basically had to obviously take it off because they would have been scrutinised so much had it stayed on it. He's done this before in the past, a couple of years ago with the extended editions where he's sort of went into the vault and, you know, a few songs that maybe needed a little bit sort of touching up and extra lyrics put on it. So he's pretty much done this where it feels as if the sort of first verse is from, you know, back in 2004, 2005, and then as you sort of get a few verses in, you can see the sort of the sort of newer verses because he ends up mentioning Caitlyn Jenner as well. Of course, Caitlyn Jenner was not Caitlyn Jenner in 2004, so you can see where the sort of newer verses are compared to the earlier ones anyway. What did you think of this track, guys? A favourite?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one of those. It was definitely added because obviously, one, it's been long enough now anyway, and this whole album's very shock value. You know, let's just see what is going to upset people because it's going to upset people regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you know the beauty of this track is? The whole beauty of it. It's not what he says or anything he does in the track. It's the fact that he's done this on purpose because this generation doesn't have a fucking clue who Christopher Reeves is.
That's what I thought as well.
But the other brilliant bit, and I would suggest anyone listening, and I would suggest you boys do it as well. Do you know the bit where he says, "Shake around like you're a slab of meat. Put your left leg forward, put your right foot back, and lean your head back. You know, until you basically like headbutt yourself in the ass or whatever it
Yeah.
is." Honestly, do it. Well, like we all
Yeah.
did it at work, and to be fair, we look like a bunch of spastics doing it. But as you're doing it, the bottom of your back pops, like almost cracks, and it feels sensational.
I saw a guy on two reactors on YouTube do it, and both of them at the same time, their backs both went, and they were both going "motherfucker," like sitting in their chairs, like that really fucking hurt.
It's basically the Eminem hokey cokey.
This song, like, it fucked me up on my first listen. It was not what I was expecting to hear straight after Trouble.
Yeah.
Like, it completely wobbled my head. I kind of looked at my brother, and he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "I don't actually know," but and then I think as we got through to the end of this. My brother's been a long time Eminem fan. He showed me Encore years and years ago on a shitty little CD like player that we had. But I kind of got to the end of the song and we were silent the whole time it was playing, like sort of in shock. And he kept mentioning Christopher Reeves, and I just sort of looked at him and was like, "Mate, he's got to leave him alone." I was like, "He's just beating the shit out of like a pile on the floor at this point." Like,
it's definitely next level hating, without a doubt. Like it's been going on for so long. It's like it's such a feud, a long-standing feud. What is hilarious about this track is that there's horses in the production, obviously going.
Yeah.
Then what I also noticed as well is that there's horses trotting incorporated into the production of it as well. And of course, those that don't know, he died a horse riding accident.
I was just about to say, like, a little disclaimer for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah,
he paralyzed himself, didn't he? I think what happened was he came off the horse, I think got tangled in the reins, and I think he severed his spine or something, so he was paralyzed from the neck down.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why you get that sort of robotic voice at the end, because I saw loads of people that didn't understand why he was doing the robotic voice, and I think as he got older and got sick as well, he wasn't really as capable of speaking anymore. So I guess it's just taking the piss out of that. But the one line that stood out to me and had me actually like belly laughing was if you want to feel just like the Man of Steel windmilling on a million banana peels.
Yeah.
Just like the mental image of someone doing that was like, yeah, that's exactly how ridiculous you're going to look if you're doing the dance he's telling you to do.
I don't know about you boys, but especially seeing how we've already, commented on White Gold's chorus, this is definitely top 3 to 5 choruses off the whole album.
It took a lot to grow on me. I won't lie. This when in the first couple of days of this album coming out, I didn't really like listening to it. But I think that's because I wasn't like switched onto it. If you know what I mean, I had to kind of understand the beat first and the production, and then as it started playing and I've gotten used to it and I've been listening to the album a few more times, it's probably in my top 5 now quite easily.
Yeah, like even just that little line, horseback, little dosey do, like just even stuff like that. There's so much smooth multi-syllable rhyming in this as well that we could generally be here all night actually dissecting it. But what I also liked with the flow is it was very slick Rick, just with the whole sort of once upon a time not long ago. It was just that sort of the way of that track from back in the day. It was very, very eerie, sort of similar to that as well. And yeah, it was recorded, of course, over 2 eras. So you'd imagine, I mean, obviously back in 2004, they recorded a large chunk of it. But do you think that how much of it do you think is current M?
I don't think a lot of it. I think the only thing he's done is, honestly, the only thing that I noticed anyway was, like you said, he's changed a name. Whoever, I think it was always going to say, I'm going to have everybody jump into this. Someone in the front row pumping their fist.
Yeah.
It could have been Christopher Reeves in the front row pumping his fist. But I think you can only notice the AI when it says the name Caitlin. That's the only time I noticed any sort of changes. And when he says dance into your wheelchair bound, here we go. I think something's been changed there a little bit. But I'm probably convinced that apart from the bridge, maybe, that sounds like modern M, but yeah, I'm convinced that probably the majority of this song was the original.
To be fair, there's a couple of lines which obviously, and like you've just said, you can tell it's like he's put his voice through a mixer, and obviously to get that old school 2004 Eminem sound. But the one line which stuck out for me, which it has to be new Eminem, obviously gone through a mixer, is in the first verse he keeps saying and Kim Jong's keeps screaming he's going to drop the bomb. But anyway, it's the same old shit it. But obviously, so 2004, I can't remember who would have been really what you could class as a global threat around that time off the top of my head. But obviously,
it was Kim Jong-il.
Yeah, it was his old man.
You had Kim Jong-un is the guy,
right.
but his dad was called Kim Jong-il. So I thought, oh, that's got to be different. That's weird that Kim Jong-un's made her. But there's nothing to say that was actually about Kim Jong-un himself. I think it was always just Kim Jong-il, because he was also popping off all the time on that as well. I mean, South Park, even going back to them, they took the piss out of him in the early 2000s.
So yeah, guys, in terms of the charts as well, this track did pretty good as well. It got to number 17 in Canada, 18 in Australia, 21 in New Zealand, 25 in the UK, and it's debuted over here in the UK at number 38. So the next track from that is Evil, which is produced by Eminem, Don Cannon and Q Beats. For those that are probably familiar with Q Beats, he's done, I think this is the first time he's collaborated with Eminem, but he has done a lot of big songs over the last couple of years. He's helped produce Summer 16 for Drake, Goosebumps with Travis Scott and Kendrick, Sicko Mode, Jimmy Cooks with 21 Savage and Drake. So I've always been a fan of this guy and his production, so I'm delighted to see that he's popped up on this one with the help of Don Cannon and M himself. So towards the end, guys, of Brand New Dance, he obviously wakes up, his alarms, and he sort of wakes up from a nightmare. And then at the start of Evil, his first line is "woke up in a bad mood today." So that obviously all sort of ties in with the start of that track. There's also quite a few lines that I want to go into as well, but just from your own perspective, guys, what do you make of this track? The chorus, in my opinion, really solid chorus. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this is probably next to Habits in my top 3 as well. This is one that I think has probably got the most replay value on the album, or one of the most replayable songs. just because it's very consistent all the way through. There's not really beat switches or anything. And again, like you said, that Eminem hook is brilliant. And also the flows on this album for the beat itself. I think, like you said, we'll go into a couple of the lines later, but again, the Slim Shady and Eminem back and forth on this is brilliant. Obviously, it just shows that those two work really well together, and obviously his style. And I think the one thing it showed me as well is all these people that have been saying, bring the old Eminem back. He doesn't write or rap like Eminem used to anymore. Maybe he can't ever since he overdosed and had to learn how to blah, 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 all that crap again. He has completely proven everybody wrong and that he can do it, but he has decided to try and do some other stuff. So I think this was kind of a very subtle middle finger to a few people that were saying, oh, we don't get that anymore. Yes, again, like I said, it's probably got the one I've replayed the most so far.
Yeah, Blake, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's even a little bit of storytelling in it. Like, obviously, I know it's a lot of like the wordplay and the lyricism, and obviously, like some of the shock value things that he says in the track is absolutely brilliant. You know, like the way it was all produced, the way it was put together. And obviously, like I say, you can't compliment that chorus enough. You know, I'm evil, so evil. You know, honestly, it's class, but like easily one of the top tracks off the whole album. You know, like the even references like a fucking mindset of a school shooter in the track. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just there's so many things going into the whole track. You know, and just like fingers in different holes here, there, and everywhere. It's so brilliant how he can just do it.
Yeah, I was looking at this the other day with the ad libs. So one of the lines it goes, Haley, look at them two little beautiful, is it pew grey poodles? How cute are they? And then the ad libs is a machine gun killing them, but he never says that. So it's like he's setting the sort of the fan experience up for, oh well, they are dead. And he didn't even have to say it. He just had, gunshot ad libs, which is unreal as well. Can you imagine the imagination, the process of that, and how he was going to do that? It's just so clever. Really enjoyed that.
Because I think one thing I've always really enjoyed, especially on his early stuff as well, is like if you go back to As the World Turns on like on the Slim Shady LP, he has that the way when he's telling a story and setting a story up, the ad libs aren't ad libs of someone just going yeah or saying whatever. He's using like sound effects to build the environment, and I definitely got that on this song. Like you said, when he goes into that, he doesn't actually say he shot them, but you hear the gunshots, and then you hear him say, well, I guess them pooches are screwed today.
Yeah, it's just so clever.
It's very, very well done, and I think, like you said, building up the the atmosphere for the track. And I also noticed as well the piano riff in the chorus. I don't know why, but I got Lose Yourself vibes from it a little bit, just from the small little piano riff that sits in the background. So again, it's definitely gone back to, I think, his older style of music, while also still setting the tone with his sort of modern flows and writing as well. So yeah, again, this for me sits very high up on the album, and some of the bars on it as well. Some of the I mean, his whole scheme with the addicts bit with the Slim Shady bit is so good. It took me ages to catch it at first, like to go back and be like, he's definitely something I'm missing there, but it was so clever.
Yeah, so it was like, so send me all them addicts, but that's also sounds like semi-automatic. Like it's really clever.
And watch me shoot them up as well, like as in people that shoot up.
And then I think towards the last verse, it's another line that was really good is so much ammunition I sweat lead. So there's a few meanings between that. He's obviously talking about ammunition and the bullets are made of lead, but then he's also talking about him writing with his pencil, that he's sweating lead, which I thought was also really, really clever.
Yeah, I think the other one that catches me as well is that all I need is MD or weed or Henny or Jim Beam or Remy or Sean Greaves gin just to get underneath your skin.
Aye.
I just thought like the way he's like sort of jibbing in and out of the beat as well, just honestly just did something for me as well when I listened to that song. I had to go back to that as well when I was sitting with my brother and be like, did you catch how many fucking words he managed to rhyme in that one bar there?
It's impressive. And what did we think of the record scratches? A lot of people are saying that the record scratching in each track symbolises the sort of switch between Shady and Eminem. Would you agree with that, or is that something you've still to spot?
I think I'd have to, because I did see that, and I think I tried to use this song as an example to prove it. But there is one record scratch that happens where it doesn't change persona, and I was a bit like, it's quite early into the track as well. So I feel like if he was setting that tone, I can understand it maybe slipping towards the end. But yeah, I didn't notice that really, because it's obviously at the end of the chorus, and then it goes into my medicine cabinet's big enough to fit a cabinet, which is obviously Slim Shady. But I think he ends the that verse with the Eminem flow and the Eminem voice. You get the record scratch at the end of the chorus, and then you get the Eminem voice again, where he says, "Holy shit, Kate Jenner just flipped."
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't necessarily see it as working as well as it if it was meant to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that's just someone reaching.
Nah, it probably is. There's a lot of people online that are maybe looking at some of the meanings behind it, maybe too deep into it. But that was one that I sort of noticed on the timeline anyway. In terms of that, the track, Debbie also gets dissed. What did we make of that, Blake?
I don't know, because it's just like a. I think because when you actually listen to it, it sort of sounds like a combination of the pair to an extent. And obviously, it's basically, are you proud of me? I don't know, because it's very old school Eminem. I think it was a nice little throwback. That's what people expect, but I don't read too much into shit like that anymore, because obviously he's already buried the hatchet to an extent with his mum on Headlights. So
yeah, it's just taking it back. It's basically Slim Shady that's saying it, and it's obviously kind of back in time in a sort of way, if you know what I mean. So there was, in terms of the track, guys, I really enjoy it. I agree with Ross totally with the replay value on it. It's also on Rap Caviar over on Spotify as well, which is good because that'll get a lot of new listeners to it as well. And in terms of Evil, there has been quite a few tracks over the years that have Evil in the title. If just a wee bit of trivia, guys, if you could name the other two tracks.
Evil Beats.
Correct.
I was get Evil Twin and Bad Meets Evil, isn't it?
Evil Twin.
Off of Slim Shady, yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. Evil.
That was the vibe I got from this, was Evil Twin. And I think we actually said a while ago when we first started doing this podcast that I'd really like to hear an album or a couple of new songs where he's just going bar for bar and back to back with Slim Shady, and we actually fucking got it in 2024, which is just nuts. So I know you're listening if he's there. But
we know.
Yeah, like I said, very good fucking song.
So from that, we have the skit after that track, which is All You Got. And there's not much to sort of dissect in that. It's just basically Eminem and Slim Shady having a conversation. He's saying, I basically made you. You were nothing till you found me. How many times have you tried to kill me? I always come back. You can't outgrow me. You can't outthink me. I'm all you've got. So then, of course, it goes on to the next episode, which we will discuss in our next episode. But in terms of the sort of start of this album, guys, a lot of good tracks. Would you say that this is more of the strongest side of the album anyway?
Yeah, I was going to say this to you guys. I think I understand that his listener base is so varied. You have people that are like in their 40s that still really enjoy his music. You have teenagers that are just getting into it now. So I can understand why some of the later songs do come on there. We won't go into them now, but I think the first probably half of this album is top tier, no skips, unbelievable consistency. Yeah, I definitely think the songs that we've just gone through are probably my most repeated songs at the moment.
Yeah, Blake, would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely think the tracks that we've just covered are definitely some of the strongest material. Obviously, hence why they're so early in the album. I mean, the next two tracks, which obviously we will cover next time we speak about it, is obviously are my favourite tracks off the album.
Yeah.
But in terms of that, I mean, the momentum sort of goes a little bit mixed and matched. But obviously, I like the whole storytelling that has consisted through the rest of the album as we continue. But no, I mean, as a first, opening of an album, the last time I was this excited and had this much replay value on an album was probably the Marshall Mathers LP2. Again, another throwback to the modern Eminem mixing in with a little bit of old school, what you loved and what you miss. So no, I mean, so far cannot complain with it.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, it's been a solid start to this album so far. Thanks to everyone that has listened so far. As I said, we'll have part 2 and part 3 coming very soon in the next week or so anyway. So we'll dissect the rest of it in our next episode. So thank you very much, and thanks to Blake and Ross. We will see you again soon.